Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with William McCance, the president and chairman of TAG Group, a diversified financial services company that owns a broker-dealer, a registered investment advisory firm, and an insurance general agency. Welcome to the show, William.
Thank you, Malcolm. Appreciate it.
William, you grew your company's revenue from $7.1 million in 2014 to $18.8 million in 2017, a 164% increase, and in 2018, you hit around $21 million. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Sure. That may be longer than you want. We are an independent broker-dealer, registered investment advisor, insurance agency, and what that means is there are extremely high barriers of entry for an individual to enter the financial services industry. So if an advisor works for a corporation now, a large corporation, and they'd like to start their own business, the barriers are way too high for them to do that. They have to register with the Securities and Exchange Commission. They have to be appointed as a broker-dealer. They're required to keep certain net capital requirements on hand, which makes those barriers very high to reach. So what we've done is we've created a firm where we provide the regulatory and operational backbone so an individual can go out on their own and advise their clients without having a corporate mandate on them, directing them as to what they should do in reference to their investing with their clients. So we give them true independence. We're beholden to no investment firms, no investment products. We want them to be able to do what's in the best interest of their particular client. And so we've created that backbone for us. We have grown quickly by doing what I call blocking and tackling. And we think we do that extremely well in our space. We make sure that we provide top-notch customer service. I'm an avid reader, and there's a great book called Raving Fans, and it is given to every single one of our staff members here, so they realize that we want every single one of our advisors to be willing to refer other advisors to us because it's a very small world. So we've grown most of our business via referrals, and it's been an exciting time. I'm extremely fortunate. I love what I do, and being able to select those that work with us so that I surround myself by intelligent, smart, valuable individuals makes my life and my quality of life great.
Yeah, that's the key, right? You want to be around people you like being around.
Absolutely.
So, now, for those who aren't ingrained in the financial services industry, can you explain very briefly what each of the three functions your company does? Insurance general agency, pretty straightforward. Registered investment advisory, pretty straightforward. But how about the broker-dealer?
Great. Yeah, the three entities are separated by regulatory bodies. So the first is the registered investment advisor. It offers money management services for a fee, a percentage of the assets that we manage. So an individual gives us $250,000 to manage. We will charge them, 1.25% of that sum on an annual basis to manage that fund, withdrawn from their accounts on a quarterly basis. If we do well and we increase the value of their account, we get a raise. If we do poorly, we get money taken away from us in reference to what we earn. So we are truly aligned with the client. The broker-dealer is the original model dating back to when exchanges were founded. And that model is a commission-based model, a transaction-based model. For every transaction that a client makes with us, they pay a commission, which is passed on to their registered representative. And the reason why we have both of these, which are sort of opposites of each other in model, is they are better suited to different types of investments. We might have a client that has $1 million invested with us, and they come to us and say, we'd like our daughter or son to start investing and learning how to invest in the markets. it'd be inappropriate to take a small sum of money, say $10,000, $15,000, and put it under a fee-for-service agreement. So in those instances, we'd probably put it into the broker-dealer environment where they pay a commission for the transaction, and the odds are there wouldn't be very many transactions because of the time horizon of their clients. It just gives us the opportunity to determine what is best for the client to meet their goals and wishes. And so we have all of the different products and types of services available to us, and then the advisor gets to choose which is best aligned with the client's goals, needs, and wants.
Right. And insurance, how does that fit into the puzzle here?
Insurance is probably the least liked, but the most important. If I have a family and I decide that I would like to save for retirement so that I can retire at age 65, and I'm the breadwinner of that family, even if I'm not the sole breadwinner of that family, I'm a major portion of income coming into the family, and I start putting aside money for retirement. No matter how good the financial advisor is, if something happens to my ability to continue to earn money, there is no way my spouse is going to make it to retirement because I am not there able to help, or they are not there able to help. So insurance is absolutely critical. Risk management is what we call it. It's a more tolerable term. And I've been in the business long enough. I started in the business in 1983. Been in the business long enough now where I've shown up at families' houses where a spouse has passed away unexpectedly and delivered a check. There's nothing more powerful than doing that when a family is in distress and all of a sudden they realize their financial needs are going to be met. So it's very, very important that we manage the risk of the client, and risks are different depending on the age. Young clients have a risk in reference to college funding. Slightly older clients have a risk to retirement planning. Clients that have entered retirement have a risk of long-term care needs and nursing home. Wealthy clients have an estate tax risk. So throughout your life, your risk changes, and we want to be able to make sure that we're there to help handle those risks. So that's why we have the third entity in our triangle.
Right. Now, you mentioned something before about how you wanted advisors to refer other advisors to you. Now, do you see those as your end client, or do you see the end investor, the person who are buying your services, as your ultimate end client?
That's interesting. We have two models now all of a sudden. So our initial model, which is the independent broker-dealer model, the advisor is our end client. We rarely speak to the client that is actually funding the accounts. We monitor the accounts to make sure that they're safe. We monitor the accounts to make sure that there's no malfeasance going along. We monitor them to make sure that the investment vehicles that are being put in them are suitable. But in reality, it is the advisor that is our client. We've started a new division of the company recently, and it will focus a little bit more on the end client being the investing public.
Okay, and what's this new unit?
So 2018 came around, and as you had kindly mentioned, we'd grown significantly. And one day I woke up and said, so what do I do with the company? And now that we've gotten to where we are, what's the next thing I should do? And I'm a college dropout. I started on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange after my freshman year in college, and I've never gone back to school afterwards. So I read a tremendous amount. And I was reading a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And in that book, it said that every senior executive should remove themselves from their environment for between 48 and 72 hours to allow themselves time to think about the future of their business. So I took this to heart, and I had a conference that I needed to go to in Las Vegas that started on a Monday afternoon. And I told my wife that I was going to be flying out Friday morning, and I was going to sit by the swimming pool in Las Vegas with a yellow pad in my lap from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the 3 days leading up to the conference. And in doing that, the first day, not much happened. It wasn't very fruitful. But I all of a sudden realized on the second day that I was going about my growth thought process backwards. I was trying to create a solution in search of a problem. And what I really should do is look at a problem and create a solution for it. And the problem that I discovered is the average age at my firm and in the industry as a whole has risen dramatically in the last 10 to 15 years. The average age in the industry is 59 and a half years old. And the average age of my firm is 61 years old. That means at some point in time, there's going to be no one out there to help clients handle their wealth. So we looked at the fact that we wanted to fill that void. We wanted to fill it for two particular reasons. One, older advisors want to retire, but their clients still have assets that need to be managed. And I've watched advisors try and sell their practices to other advisors, and they get right to the end where they're about to do it, and then all of a sudden their paternal instincts kick in, and they realize that they don't trust the person that they're selling the business to treat their clients who have become their friends in the manner that they want to be treated. So we feel that if we recruit young individuals, not from the financial services business, we train them ourselves with our morals and our ethics and our customer service values, and they bring their knowledge of technology and their youthfulness, that we will be able to create an individual that an older advisor would be willing to sell their practice to. And then using our balance sheet, we will purchase these practices and have our new team manage it. It's a really exciting thing. We call it Tag 2.0 for no better name, but in the end, we will have both advisors and end clients working with us, and it's very exciting for us.
So they're really not going to be selling it to the young individuals that you're hiring. They're really going to be selling it to your firm, who have a team of young people ready to take over and manage and maintain the relationship with the clients.
Absolutely. That gives them the confidence that, one, we have the balance sheet to handle the payments in purchasing their firm. Two, we have the knowledge to manage the assets with these individuals and guide these individuals through whatever issues may come up in the marketplace. The markets are cyclical. As you recall, we had a great recession back in 2008, 2009. Someday we'll have a similar recession that comes, and we hope that our wisdom and our training will help our advisors guide the clients through that time like that.
Right. Now, is your business primarily driven by the investment advisors who then do business through your broker-dealer unit, or is it primarily driven now through the end investor clients through your registered investment advisory business and your insurance agency business?
Yeah, so the moment most of our business is derived from the advisor. Okay. The advisor is working with the client. The client determines they want to make a transaction with the advisor. The advisor processes that transaction through us. We believe that within the next 36 months that will transition, and the new Tag 2.0 unit will become the driver of the firm's revenue.
And the Tag 2.0 units within the registered investment advisory unit.
It is. It will still have access to the two other entities. The Trust Advisory Group, RIA, will be the primary entity, and the two other entities will be available to them. So if a client needs to make a transaction and it's the right thing for a client to make a transaction in those entities, they'll be able to do it.
Right. Got it. Now, in terms of the drivers of the business, over the past 4 years, right, you grew your business from 7.1 million in 2014 to around 21 million in 2018. And you start going into a little bit about the drivers that drove the growth. You mentioned blocking and tackling, having a focus on customer service. Would that be your number one driver of the business growth?
I think it would be. I think it goes a little bit farther than that. I have a very paternalistic look at our advisors. I know every single advisor that works for the firm. We have 110 advisors now. I know them all personally. I know their names. I know their wives' names. Most of them I know their children's names. And unlike many firms, we believe the technology helps, but we believe the technology is not the be-all and end-all. We believe human interaction is still important. So we want our advisors to call into the firm. We want to talk to them. For the majority of our advisors, our customer service and operations team recognizes who they are just by their voice before they even start talking. We want them to feel a part of our firm, even though they're relatively independent in how they operate with our firm. My favorite 2 days of the year are the 2 days before Thanksgiving, where I pick up the phone and call every single advisor and employee that works at our firm personally and tell them how thankful I am that they work with us. It's a great opportunity for me to express my thanks. It's a great opportunity for me to connect with them, and it's a great differentiator. No one else in the business has the ability to do that because we're small and we're nimble, and because of that, we give that family-like atmosphere.
Right. Now, how many advisors and employees are you calling?
It turns out, though, at the end of the day, it's 130 calls.
Over each for 2 days?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to get through to them and connect with them?
Many of them I leave voicemails and they call me back. When I first started in the business, I was on the sell side with a firm called Drexel Burnham Lambert, and I made 250 dials a day every day for 2 years. So that one thing that I'm good at is dialing the telephone.
Now that actually is an interesting angle or aspect you talked about. You were smiling and dialing, gosh, how long is that? 20, 30 years ago with Drexel?
Yes.
And how has that changed today in terms of getting through to people?
Yeah, it's a completely different environment now. Gaining clients and representatives, it really comes from referrals more than anything else. You've got the do not call list. Many people don't know that if you violate the do not call list, it's a $5,000 fine. So we don't risk that. So we don't do any what would be called in the past cold calling. We derive our clients by doing target marketing, advertising in particular venues, or using referrals, which is why that customer service is so important. An individual knows approximately 250 other individuals that are like themselves. If you go to their daughter's wedding, daughter or son's wedding, or you go to their funeral, there'll be 250 people there that look very much like them. If you provide a poor customer service environment for that one person, you have lost access to 250 other people. If you create a tremendous customer service environment, you just gained access to 250 other people. That's why customer service is so important.
Right, definitely. So the number one driver, focus on customer service and on the client relationship. And by client, you're talking about relationship with your employees, with the advisors, with the end investor as well. What about drivers number 2 and 3 for your business?
Drivers number 2 and 3 are product drivers, making sure that we have the right products available to our end clients and our advisors to use. We've been in a hyper low interest rate environment for the last 10 years. Since the Federal Reserve went to an almost negative interest rate or a 0% interest rate in 2008. And so we have clients that typically would have been investing in the fixed income market looking for yield out of bonds, government bonds, corporate bonds, but unfortunately, those clients could not get the return from those yields that they needed. We would have had millionaires living on cat food because interest rates went from an average interest rate of 4.5% to an average interest rate of 25 basis points or 1/4 of 1%. So there's an individual with $1 million was earning $45,000 a year, and all of a sudden they were going to earning $2,500 a year. That's not sustainable for them in retirement. So we needed to make sure that we had vehicles that would provide a slightly higher interest rate. And so we created and partnered with other firms that invested in things such as real estate, oil and gas royalty programs, bonds in the life settlement market that all provided higher interest rates than they were able to get in the open markets with corporate bonds. That allowed us to meet the needs of our client, which kept our advisors in good stead with their clients throughout the crisis.
And that's where your broker-dealer unit came in handy, right? Because your broker-dealer was the one that packaged this offer and made it available to the advisors.
Absolutely correct. The broker-dealer has the ability to enter into selling groups or be an underwriter. So some products we underwrite ourselves. We've done some work in the public storage area where we find land in appropriate places. We have a developer that we raise money for. They build the public storage unit. They stabilize it by renting it. And that provides an income stream to our clients, and in the end, hopefully a profit for them when we dispose of the public storage unit.
Right.
Or we enter into a selling group with a large REIT, real estate investment trust, that throws off a nice dividend for the client.
Right. So driver number 2, having the right product for your end clients and your advisors. Is there a third driver that we should mention?
The third driver is more on my side, is managing of expenses. We have very low margins on the current side of our business. That's how we differentiate ourselves from a major wirehouse player like the major banks. We pay our reps a larger percentage of their revenue. So because of that, I need to make sure that I keep our costs down in the home office area. And the way I do that is by hiring top-notch people and treating those people well. In the corporate world, I truly believe that if you get 3 or 4 hours of work out of an individual's 8-hour day, you're doing a pretty good job. My team here, they love what they do. They love how they're treated. They love the environment that they're in. And so because of that, they put in a good 7.5 hours out of every 8 hours actually working, getting things done. They are extremely efficient, and I'm extremely thankful that they work with us because of that efficiency that they provide us, which allows us to be profitable in a low margin environment.
Yeah. And I imagine, you didn't mention this, but I imagine your retention rate must be quite high as well.
Our retention rate is very, very high, both on the advisor side and on the staff side. We've got staff members that have been here since 1996, well before I was part of the company. I think we do have some new staff members recently that we've added, but the average staff member and rep have been with the firm for over 13 years.
That's a long time, and an eternity in the financial services business.
Absolutely true, but what's our biggest cost would be an acquisition cost. Going out and finding new advisors is time consuming, it's financially consuming, so it is much better to keep an advisor than to go find a new advisor.
Yep, it definitely is costly. How about for 2019? Let's talk a little bit about your plans, or maybe you can go out a bit further because you already mentioned this, maybe your 3-year plan, because I know you mentioned earlier that in 3 years, TAG 2.0 is going to be the big driver of your business. Are you comfortable sharing? And okay, if you're not, are you comfortable sharing?
No, I'm completely comfortable with sharing. That's the great thing about America, in my opinion. One, there's very little in the financial service industry that you would consider intellectual property. So there are no copyrights, there's no patents involved in it. And in America, there's plenty of business for all of us that want to be in the business. So I have no problem sharing it. What we're going to do is we're going to go hire millennials, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
We are going to train them in the financial services industry, and we're going to use their youthfulness and their knowledge of technology to marry the two together to come up with a top-notch unit that provides financial planning for individuals.
Right.
The unit will also be mentored by advisors that have been in the business for 20, 30, 35 years that are looking to monetize their book of business and retire and enjoy the efforts of their labor that they put in. So they'll help us in training these advisors, and in turn, they will sell the firm the book of business. We will finance that with our balance sheets, and the advisors will take over their book of business, and they will know the seller personally. The seller will know them personally, so it'll be a very, very, very strong transition. I was really, really worried that I was going to have trouble finding top quality recruits for our TAG 2.0 initiative. And I was so pleasantly surprised. John Cadigan, who is our National Director of Sales, brought in a tremendous number of recruits for us to talk to. And I discussed with each of them, why us? These were people that were graduating from Harvard, Ohio State, great top-notch schools that were out there, that were also talking to some of the largest and most well-known investment banks in the country. Why were they talking to little old trust advisory group in Woburn, Massachusetts? And what I found out was this. Millennials are truly looking for work-life balance. They are not looking for the 80-hour work week. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor. They want to work hard when they're working, but they want to experience life. And we are very much on board with that. We think you can do this job in a 40 to 50-hour work week. We don't want to work them to death. And the rosy glasses have been taken off of the technology sector. In the early part of this decade, people flocked to technology and technology companies. And why did they do that? Well, they advertised pool tables, unlimited food, beanbag chairs, bicycles that you could ride. And why did they offer all those things? It seemed pretty neat until you got there and you learned the reason why they offered those things was they never let you go home.
Yeah.
You had to work 80 to 100 hours a week. People have all of a sudden seen that and are now coming back to firms like us that, yes, we're in the financial services industry, but we're not the hated Wall Street.
Yep.
We are the Main Street of financial services. And so because of that, they're very attracted to us. And I'm really, really excited with our team that we are bringing on board.
Yep. Now, how many advisors do you have now, or reps do you have now, and how many young reps are you planning on hiring?
Yeah. So at the moment we have 110 advisors at the firm, and we are going to start off by hiring a class of 5 advisors. They'll start May 15th. Very excited about that, and we have chosen them, and they've accepted their offer. So it's a great plan moving forward. We'll eventually end up with 10 in this office, but if the model works here, which we certainly believe it will, the model will work in almost any city in the country. So we have plans in 18 to 24 months to open an office in West Palm Beach, in Scottsdale, Arizona, in Dallas, Texas, and Chicago. And we will replicate what we have done here in each of those cities because there are aging advisors in each of those cities that need someone to take over their book of business.
So you have maybe 20, 25 young advisors on board. Is that enough to do the transition? Sounds like you would have more.
Over time we'll end up with more. I have a max number in my head, which is 250. And how did I come up with the number 250? I can't remember more than 250 names. And I want to be able to control our environment and make sure that it lives in the form that it is now, that we act like a family business where everyone knows each other and everyone treats each other with respect and courtesy, and we can do that at 250. We can't do that at 1,000.
Yeah, definitely be different. So what do you anticipate your revenue will be in 3 years once TAG 2.0 is up and running?
When I look at it, I've got a target revenue of $50 million is my target revenue in 2 years. And I think we'll see hyper growth because we'll see a lot of advisors that don't even work for our firm looking to sell us their books of business. What you may not realize is there are a lot of advisors out there that are the only person that works for their company. There are some 2,800 what I call one-man bands just on the Northeast coast from Washington, D.C. Up through Maine. If those advisors walk out their door and are hit by a bus, there is no one to answer the phone for their clients. So we're going to go and talk to all of those advisors, and we're going to do two things. One, if it's the appropriate time for them, we're going to offer to buy their practice. And we're going to put them into our transition mix where they can meet with our advisors so they can make a very nice handoff from them to us, with their clients being completely comfortable in that transition. Two, if they're not ready to sell their book of business or retire at this point in time, we're going to enter into a succession plan with them, where if something disastrous happens to them and they lose the ability to practice, we will step in and take over their practice for them and pay their family, their estate, themselves if they become disabled, for their practice going forward. That way they know that their clients are taken care of no matter what happens, and their clients will know that they're taken care of no matter what happens to the advisor, because they have a large corporate entity backing it up. We think that's going to be a real driver moving forward.
Right. So for you to get from 21 million in 2018 to 50 million in 2 years, right? That's your 2020 target, I guess?
That's correct.
Okay. What's the biggest obstacle that you and your team need to overcome to get there?
Ooh, that's always a good question. The biggest obstacle is getting individuals to decide to sell their practice to us. That's obviously the main driver here, is picking up these practices. And it's interesting. People who do what we do typically love it. And strangely enough, one of the biggest obstacles is a bull market. When the market is going well, and clients are happy, even 75-year-old advisors, they don't see a need to retire at that point in time, because the effort that they need to put into their business is less than you might expect, because everyone's happy. The second we see a dip in the market, all of a sudden the interest in selling a practice goes up quite dramatically, because the business becomes much harder to find opportunities in a recession or a bear market. So if this market continues to move up in the manner that it's moved up over the past 10 years, that will be a tide that we'll be swimming against in trying to convince advisors to sell their business. I know it's strange to root against a bull market, and we're certainly not doing that. We're just recognizing that is a drag on our ability to purchase these book of business and the willingness of advisors to sell their book of business.
Yeah, but from a purely business perspective, you always want to sell when your business is doing well, not when it's slowing down, right? As it would be during a recession.
You would hope so. You would hope that people would have that foresight. I found in this world people have less foresight than you might think.
Well, not even foresight, right? I mean, you'd want to sell your business when business is going well currently, right? You don't want to sell it when you're in the middle of a recession and revenues are falling, and clients are not as receptive, right? That seems to be the worst time to sell.
I tend to agree with you, and I will definitely use your comments in my recruiting pitch.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to chat with any of them about that. It's about from a purely unemotional business valuation perspective, right? It's all about cash flows and net present value and those sort of things.
No question about it. And that's one of the benefits of our TAG 2.0 system, is we've actually hired an independent third party that specializes in valuing practices. So it's not our word against their word in reference to what their practice is worth. We have a completely independent entity that will come in and value their practice, and then we'll have a negotiation from that point. So we all start at a level setting spot.
Yep. Now, you mentioned the hardest part is getting the individual practice owners to consider selling their practice to you or a succession plan. Now, I take it it's fairly easy to find these people, right? They're all government registered, so they're in the database.
That is correct. Determining who they are is not the problem. Reaching out to them, financial services individuals are bombarded.
Hmm.
I receive over 700 emails a day from product vendors to mutual fund companies to technology companies to fintech companies. All trying to sell our firm their services. So there's a barrage of information flooding these individuals, and we need to cut through that noise. We'll do that through the appropriate use of social media, something that I know you specialize in Malcolm, and getting them to see the opportunity and actually driving them to reach out to us. Instead of us reaching out to them, that would be the best form of contact, is them reaching out to us. We'll do some old school. I'm a big proponent of something that was once known as the postcard, and I have determined in my own personal research that it is impossible not to read a postcard when it arrives at your office or your home. You can't not read what's right in front of you. Your brain automatically reads it. And so we do a lot of postcard mailing out to potential advisors in this particular space. And then we also do a lot of education. We are opening up a certain amount of the training classes that we will be using with our new recruits to outside advisors. Our most recent one will be April 25th, and we'll be doing a class on how to transfer assets such as summer homes, family assets that have been in families for generations, from one generation to the next generation efficiently. It can be a really daunting task for a matriarch or patriarch of a family looking at a piece of family property and trying to figure out what's going to happen when I pass on and this is left to my four children. How is it going to be handled at that point in time? Each of them is at a different space in their life and a different place. How do we make that as efficient a transfer as possible and make it a wonderful thing versus an albatross around anyone's neck? It's a great training program that we have, and so we're going to invite advisors that are potential candidates to sell their practice so they can see the top quality training that the advisors that would be working on their books of business receive, so that they're comfortable that their clients are going to be well taken care of if indeed they decide to sell their practice.
Yeah, it's a good strategy, right? Because a lot of times when they see what's involved with doing the training, they think, wow, man, that's a lot of work for me to do this myself. I don't have time for that.
And they're right; it is a lot of work. But for me, it's fun work. This is about giving back. The industry has done so much for me. An individual who, at the age of 19, showed up on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange as a summer job and is now, the president of a $21 million revenue business. That happened because good people were willing to take a chance on me and give me a break. And now I have the ability to turn around and give back and do the same thing for some young people. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and it's very cool how you identified the gap, right? Just from the demographics, right, of who are working for you today, and you see what's going to be happening in the next 10 years, right? People are going to be winding things down one way or the other.
We also have $23 to $30 trillion that's going to move from one generation to the next generation. And this new generation doesn't want to work with their father's gray-haired advisor. They want to work with someone who is like them, who understands the way they think, understands their goals and their wishes, and will interact with them in the manner that they want to be interacted with. They want to text more than they want to call. They want to FaceTime versus more than they want to sit in a meeting. They want to experience life versus mow lawns. So by bringing this young group of advisors in, we're preparing ourselves for that transition from one generation to the next generation of a tremendous amount of wealth, and we'll be prepared to accept it in the manner that the next generation wants to be dealt with. Yeah,
definitely. At the end of the day, like you said, right, the 250 people are are people similar to you, right? And that extends beyond just your personal friends, also the ones you want to work with.
No question about it.
Yep. Three last questions for you, William. If you were to have a billboard along the freeway, advertising your firm, or maybe one of the 3 units, or maybe your firm as a whole, what would your billboard message be? And keep in mind that most people only have 6 seconds before they drive by a billboard, so your message has to be usually pretty short and to the point.
No question about it, and we put some thought into this as we built our practice. So I believe that the message really would be, we're different. We want to interact with you as you want to be interacted with. Come work with Tag 2.0, where new technology marries old-fashioned customer service and values.
Right.
So very simple.
Yep. And before I get to my final 2 questions for you, I forgot there's one other question I wanted to ask you. I took a look at your web presence from a pay-per-click and SEO perspective, and not seeing much of that on either side. Not much pay-per-click activity. It doesn't look like you've been really working hard to build out your SEO traffic. What's your thoughts there?
No, that's a tremendous point, and is changing quickly. We are about to put a major initiative in on SEO. We've redesigned our website to the Tag 2.0 initiative. That's one of the problems that we have, is we're now servicing a bunch of different groups. So how do you package it? How do you messages? What websites do you have for it? And I didn't want to do a whole lot of SEO until the back end was ready for it. You don't want to put up an ad at the Super Bowl and not have enough phone lines to take the calls that are coming in, because that's an expensive mistake to make. So yep. We are about to launch a major SEO initiative. This interview is going to be part of that, which is why we're doing it in a digital format with a highly respected individual such as yourself.
And how about on the pay-per-click side?
The pay-per-click side, we are doing a little bit of. We haven't gone out yet. We believe that the pay-per-click side is probably geared more to the end client, and we're still in a recruiting phase. So we'll start entering the pay-per-click market in August of 2019, and we will start doing pay-per-click on words such as inheritance, advisor technology, things of that sort that we think clients might be out there searching on. And we'll start doing banner ads at that point in time in select markets and select areas. We believe that we'll be highlighting on the end client side, we'll be highlighting the next generation, the generation that's inheriting that $23 to $30 trillion. And we believe we should be advertising in the same type of places as REI and Nike and Outdoor World and individuals like that. That's where we'll be putting billboard ads and our pay-per-click resources.
Yeah, makes sense. Right? Go where your market is.
Absolutely.
All right. So the 2 last questions I have for you. Who are your ideal clients, either as a whole for Tag Group or individually for your 3 business units, or maybe 4 now if you think about 2.0, Tag 2.0? And what's the best way for them to contact your firm?
Great. So number one, our perfect client is an advisor that cares more about their client's needs than they do their own. And that's the way we operate. We put the client first, we put the advisor second, and we put the firm third. So as long as an advisor has an alignment similar to that in reference to the way they work with their clients, I think they'd fit in beautifully with us. Our end client is anyone who wants to be treated as a person, who doesn't want to be, I have 2 daughters and they love to use the term mansplaining. Well, in our industry, we have what I call investment splaining. We want to talk to our clients in English. We don't want to talk to them in investment ease. where they don't understand what we're saying and we're proving that we're smarter than they are. We're not smarter than they are. We just happen to work harder in our particular field than they want to work in that particular field. So anyone who's looking for top quality asset management, I think we're a great place for that. And then young people who are looking to build wealth, who want to interact with a team that understands their goals, their experiential ways, and is willing to interact with them in the manner that they interact with. So those are our three target ways. And then in reaching us, I can be reached at wmccancE@tag-ages.com. That's my email address. Please feel free to reach out to me, or the old-fashioned method of the telephone, which is 781-933-6100.
All right. And I suppose contacting you or your team by your website works just as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And your web address is just the ending part of your email address as well, right?
Actually, I would direct them to a stronger email address, which would be taggrouprecruiting.com.
All right. Awesome. William, it's been great having you on my show today. I really enjoyed hearing how you grew your company so fast and how you will be growing it so fast in the next few years.
I've enjoyed it, Malcolm, and I look forward to coming back sometime in the future and giving you an update. I hope you and those that are listening to your podcast can see how passionate I am about the business and how passionate our company is about being successful and being a great steward to individuals' assets in this industry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that came across loud and clear during our conversation today. No doubt about that.
Great. Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with William McCance, the president and chairman of TAG Group, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.